Most writers think their story starts on page 1. It doesn't. It starts with a moment too many drafts completely miss. And when it's not there, no amount of editing will make the story work. I've been writing fantasy for over 20 years now. And when you've spent that long finishing stories, reworking broken ones, and seeing what survives revision, you start noticing what holds together everything. And the scene I'm talking about here is that linchpin. So in this video, I'm going to show you what the most important scene in your fantasy novel actually is, what makes that scene emotionally powerful, not just plot relevant, and how to use it to anchor the rest of your book so you stop second guessing every decision. To start, let me show you how to recognize the moment your real story begins. Picture this, your protagonist just watched their village burn. They're angry, they're lost, they've got nothing but a sword and a half-baked plan. But instead of chasing revenge, they do nothing. They wander, they stall, and for the next 100 pages, you can't figure out why the story won't move. That's what happens when you skip the real starting point. This scene, the point of no return, isn't about action. It's about the moment they stop running from what needs to happen. When your character stops reacting and chooses to engage, knowing there's no going back, that's when your story finally becomes real. It's the first moment they step into discomfort on purpose. I'm sure you've seen it 100 times already, maybe without realizing what it was. Take Frodo standing in Rivendell saying, "I will take the ring." That's not a logistical solution, it's emotional surrender. He doesn't know the path, but he steps forward anyway. Or take Geralt accepting the law of surprise. He's not chasing power or reward. He makes a promise that binds him to a future he cannot predict and cannot undo. In each of these scenes, it's not just the plot that shifts, the character. Without this moment, your story might have a world, but it doesn't have a reason to exist. And if you want help finding the other key moments that hold your story together beyond just this one, I've put together a free starter kit that shows you how. You can find the link in the description below. Moving on, now that you know what you're aiming for with this one scene, the next step is understanding why this moment changes everything else. Think of your story like a suspension bridge. Your scenes, conflicts, and characters all hang together, but only if they are tied to something solid. The point of no return is that anchor. Without it, you're building tension on air. Readers don't know what your character truly wants, or worse, your character doesn't know either. That's when your middle sags, your subplots threads tangle, and your ending feels like it belongs to a different book. The strongest stories work because this one scene transforms everything that comes after it. The moment your protagonist stops stalling and takes full responsibility for what happens next, the fear, the losses, the future, the story comes into motion. But where does this scene usually happen? Well, it could be anywhere, depending on your story. But if you think in acts or beats, it often shows up near the end of Act 1. It's like an emotional ignition switch. It sets fire to the journey and makes the reader care about what happens next. Get this scene right and your readers buy in. And this isn't just about reader immersion, it's about writer clarity too. Once this moment takes hold, you don't have to over-explain every twist or justify every side quest as long as it builds upon the decision made in this crucial scene. But even if you write this scene properly, that doesn't mean your story is safe. It just means your reader is finally watching. Now the question is whether what they pay attention to will actually hold up. Writing this scene is like setting the first stone in an archway. If it's loose, the whole structure wobbles. If it's solid, every brick above it falls into place. But that stone needs shape, it needs definition. Without it, you don't know what you're building toward. So here's the scorecard. If your scene doesn't check all 3 of these boxes, it's not doing the job. First, it has to cost something. Not just time or effort, but something personal. Maybe it's safety, love, or the right to pretend everything's fine. Second, it has to change them. That doesn't mean they are suddenly a different person. It means the decision forces them into forward motion. This is the moment they stop pretending to be who they were. From here on, we're watching someone become someone else. And third, it must be a choice. This cannot happen to them. They have to choose it. Even if they're scared, even if they're wrong, even if it hurts. This is the heartbeat of your character arc. If your story doesn't have this pulse, the reader won't know when or why to care. But making it believable goes beyond just cost, change, and choice. That takes pressure, layering, and restraint, just like real decisions do. The first time I tried to write this kind of scene, I thought I'd nailed it. Big decision, high cost, emotional fallout. On paper, it hit all the marks. But something didn't sit right. It felt sudden, like the character had flipped a switch without warning. I had the moment, but none of the pressure leading into it. And that's the trap here. If the decision feels like it drops from nowhere, readers don't trust it. It doesn't matter how dramatic it looks on the page, if the build-up doesn't show the strain of earlier situations, the payoff won't land. What fixed it for me wasn't rewriting the big moment, it was going back and layering in friction. I gave the character reasons to hesitate, scenes that showed the lie they were still holding on to, moments where the world pulled in the opposite direction. But when they finally made the choice, it didn't feel sudden. It felt like the pressure had finally built too high to ignore, and this was the only move left that still made them feel like themselves. This is how you give the choice weight, by making it feel like something the story has been circling for a while. In the early chapters, plant tensions that quietly corner your character, a friendship they are starting to mistrust, a value they claim to believe but keep violating, or a fear that keeps shaping their choices. These aren't random flaws, they are the pressure points that make the eventual decision feel honest. And when it finally hits, it won't feel like a twist. It'll feel like the answer to a question that's been building in the background. But even with all that pressure in place, there's still one question I see writers get stuck on. How do you know if the scene you wrote is actually the one? Have you read a book where you hit chapter 12 and still can't figure out what it's about? Cool world, decent writing, but everything just kind of floats. You keep waiting for the story to start, even though technically it already has. That's the feeling readers get when the point of no return isn't on the page. And a lot of writers miss it not because they are lazy or lost, but because they mistake action for commitment. Something explodes, a character storms out, there's drama, but nothing irreversible has actually happened. Well, here's a quick test I use when I look at early drafts. First, can the character walk away from it without consequence? They could reverse the choice, undo the damage, or go back to normal. It's not the scene. Second, has there been real pressure building toward it? If there are no cracks in the beliefs, no tension with others, no difficult truths rising up, then the decision won't mean anything. It'll look important, but it will feel thin. And third, does the story change because of it? Not just the character, the story. If the rest of your plot could unfold the same way without this choice, then it wasn't a real turning point, it was just a detour. Even if you can't answer these clearly yet, that's good news, because now you know what you're looking for, and you're a lot closer than the writers who are still chasing better sentences without asking better questions. But if this scene is what anchors your story, then the question is, how do you actually build everything else around it? Well, for that, watch this video here next, where I'll show you how to plan the foundation of your entire novel using just 15 scenes, the most important one here included.